in the Lake District.
in the Lake District. Right. And has spring sprung.
Spring has definitely sprung. It's lovely. Yeah.
What kind of signs of spring are there right now?
I'm looking out the window, got daffodils and got all the roadside flowers shining through. The dandelions and daisies, lots of long
I
grass.
love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
The swallows have
we-
arrived from Africa, so
we've made it through the winter.
there we go. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, everyone, it's so great to be together today on this live stream. We have a very special guest, Nick Ray, with us, which is amazing because right now we're doing a UK pre-order sale through a Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign. And it's great to have a UK supporter of both Shine One here to talk about his experience. Um, and we also have Kat Adelaide, CEO and founder of the Shine team, and myself, Rachel Carr, also a co-founder of Shine. So, yeah, if you're calling in from, who knows where, please comment. Let us know where you're calling in from. We want this to be interactive. The first thing we're going to do is just talk about Nick's experiences, his explorations, and then we're going to go in and talk about Shine One, his experience using Shine One on his adventures, and then focus in on Shine 2 and where we're headed with that. So, just to give an overview, Nick is an adventurer. He's a mental health advocate and a passionate explorer who has spent years navigating remote coastlines and landscapes of Scotland, often solo, which is very crazy. He's someone who deeply connects with the healing power of nature and shares his journey to raise awareness around mental health and resilience. Nick is one of our early supporters. As I mentioned, he's been using Shine on his expeditions across Scotland, including the amazing moment when he captured Shine with the Highland cows in the background. Some of you may have seen that as we posted it across our social channels. So yeah, we're just so thrilled to have him here to talk about his experience with Shine, what's next for his adventures, and what he's looking forward to with Shine 2. So Nick, please, can you tell us a little bit background of the journey you've taken to get where you are today and what that has meant for you?
Well, I could go way back. Essentially, I've lived my life in the outdoors. I've been very, very lucky, very, very fortunate. Right from leaving school at the age of 18, went straight into working in the outdoors as an instructor. And since then, right up into the tender age of 61 now, I've still been doing lots of different things in the outdoors, like kayaking and climbing and walking. But in the last 10 years, I've kind of focused on longer personal journeys. So taking myself off in my generally my sea kayak and just exploring the Scottish coastline. And
Wow.
10 years ago, last May, I set off to paddle to all the lifeboat stations around Scotland. And I did that trip. That was my first big trip on my own. And then since then, I did a couple of others. And then in 2022, I set off for a whole year to paddle around Scotland, just at the pace of nature, really, and just to explore. It was the year that I turned 59. So on my 59th birthday, I set off on the journey with the idea of returning to my home on my 60th birthday, having just spent the whole year paddling, which I did, an incredible experience. So that's it, and I'm heading off on another adventure on the 1st of May, and this time I'm walking, so I'm not paddling, but I'm walking to all the well, to the four corners of mainland Scotland, so the southernmost point, the easternmost point, and then the westernmost point, and then finishing up at the northernmost. So that's a journey of, well, in English miles, it's 1,000 miles. So I think it's about, I think
Wow.
1,600 kilometers, I think. So I'm very lucky to be able to enjoy those those adventures. And yeah, as you said, a lot of them are solo. I do enjoy my own company out there. But yeah, it's been great.
Amazing. How did you come to the place where you realized what you needed to do was go on a solo sea kayaking expedition? Like how was that clear to you?
I think I've always been interested in the personal growth side of things in the outdoors. I guess having worked in Outward Bound, which is an organization that provides personal development courses for young people and adults in the outdoors, um, I've always been interested in that aspect of personal growth through the outdoor experience. And as somebody who's always been interested in my own personal journey and my own development, the outdoors has always been a natural place for me to kind of explore myself, really. And I think that happens best when I'm on my own. And I like to set myself challenges. I like to face maybe difficult experiences. I enjoy solitude. One of my most favorite sort of quotations is that loneliness is the word that we use to describe the pain of being alone, but solitude is the word we use to describe the joy of being alone. And for me, it's joyful to be out there in the wilds and experience nature on my own. It's a very intimate experience. So I just love it. And I'm not, I'm not averse to traveling with other people. I do have a lot of adventures with friends. And on my journeys, increasingly more and more people are wanting to meet me. So it's lovely. I get to meet so many people, which is really important because it helps me talk about, the underlying reasons why I do these journeys in terms of talking about mental health recovery, talking about suicide prevention or suicide awareness. So yeah, so that's why I do it really. And also, yeah, maybe I maybe I'm not that easy to get on with sometimes. There's a practical things I do like to make decisions on my own. I can be a little bit grumpy at times when it comes to negotiating, you know, what what's a shared experience and what's a personal experience. So yeah, no, I do enjoy, you know,
Mhm.
my own company really. Yeah.
That's incredible. And one of the things that would come to my mind going on solo expeditions would be safety and security. I'm curious, how do you cultivate that feeling of like our sense of security when you're on your own in such remote places or possibly in urban areas too? What does that look like for you?
But I think we're blessed nowadays with technology. We have GPS systems or tracker systems that can link us directly to whoever we want to be connected to, really, to look over us, watch out for us if anything should go wrong. So that's certainly, a huge benefit in this day and age. And I make full use of those systems. I have a personal locator beacon when I'm kayaking. Just press a button and, hopefully a rescue boat or a helicopter will come to my location, pretty smartly, if need be. But generally, I stay in touch with loved ones by phone. That's another technical advantage these days. But inherently, it comes down to wisdom and experience, which I'm blessed with, having spent all my life in the outdoors. So, I'm fortunate to be able to make decisions about my own safety, which I like doing, really. I like taking responsibility for my safety, which means I'm able to assess the risks and meet those risks, as I see fit. One of the things that I really strongly believe in is that, we can't grow unless we step beyond our comfort zone. And to step beyond my comfort zone, I sometimes have to stretch myself into realms that seem a little bit more risky than normal. But in doing that, I'm always able to judge whether that risk is ultimately dangerous or slightly hazardous, for example. So there's different ways of looking at it. But I'll never knowingly or purposefully put myself in harm's way. I'd quite happily sit on the shore and watch the wind whip across the sea and not put to sea, or decide not to walk on a day when the rivers are raging. Don't have to cross the rivers or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I'm a cautious adventurer, but also I do believe that risk is necessary because an adventure is an adventure. It's something with an unknown outcome, and one of those outcomes is having to assess the risks on the way, just as we would traveling in our vehicles going to work. How whether we speed up or slow down or pull out into the oncoming traffic, whatever it is, we're constantly every day sort of making those kind of decisions, about keeping ourselves safe. So the outdoors for me is a natural realm. So I'm very fortunate.
Amazing. It's incredible. So you've mentioned how technology can support feeling secure and connected when you're in remote areas. Can you tell us more about the type of technology that you do bring with you on these expeditions?
Yeah, my partner, she always laughs at me because she laughs at all my gadgets. Well, I mean, I have my, I have a GPS tracker which I use to pinpoint my route so people can follow me live if they want to. And, I've set that so it pings every half hour so people can see my location every half hour. I have that, I have my uh, e my personal locator beacon that, that's also something that will keep me safe. I have my mobile phone, my cell phone. Then I have cameras. So I've got a 360-degree camera. I've got a GoPro. I've got a regular SLR, big big lens camera. What else have I got? I've got a small drone. Sometimes I use that. Yeah, and then I've got head torches and LED lamps that I use in my tent if it's wintertime. Um, what else? I'm sure there's things I'm missing, but there's lots of things, which leads in nicely, really, because all those things need power to keep them going. And and not until recently, and I've always used solar, but here in the UK, you can't be blessed with, we're not blessed with sunshine all the time, and also, power banks, which are kind of weighty and bulky and stuff. So, but yeah, as technology advances, it's one of those dichotomies, really. So it's how much do we embrace it and how much do we carry with us? Um, sometimes, I've often been caught out when I've been messaging on my social media, and I've messaged something like, "Oh, it's wonderful. The solitude is absolutely wonderful out here in such and such," and then somebody will come back and say, "Well, you're not really on your own. You've got a couple of thousand people that you're speaking to." So it's one of those things in our modern way of living and how connected we are. We can have these amazing experiences out there in the wilds and yet remain completely connected to strangers and loved ones alike. But for that to happen, we need the technology and the gadgets and things like that.
Mm, amazing. I don't want to hog the mic, Kat. If you want to jump in at any point, do so. But I just am so curious about Nick's journey.
Yeah, I mean, like one thing that comes to mind is there a scenario where technology sort of helped you avoid a catastrophic situation? Like, is there a story that you remember where you were, I don't know if I would say saved, but um, at least, I guess, navigated a rough situation in the outdoor environment through technology?
Um, I think preventative, so like using, the my phone or iPad for weather apps and or tidal planning and things like that. So yeah, definitely being able to log into the internet, the web and be able to get, minute by minute information about the weather conditions, the wind particularly. So that's always helped me make a decision that's kept me safe, really. Because in the old days, it would have been looking at the weather forecast a few days ahead, maybe relying on VHF radio with a forecast that's a few hours old to make a decision about something in that present moment. And so that's always meant that the risk has been heightened. Um, so no, I think preventative. And in terms of my own experience, I've been incredibly fortunate that I've never really faced um, anything too demanding, hazard-wise. I'm just thinking. I mean, I was involved with mountain rescue many years ago, and we used technology then. It was beginning to emerge in terms of personal locator beacons, and certainly that meant that we were able to locate casualties a lot quicker. Um, who'd used a personal locator beacon, we were able to find our way to them. I suppose recently, yes, involved with the La Royal National Lifeboat Institute here in the UK. I wasn't a crew member on the boat, but I was one of the shore team, and we often used, well, the casualties again on their craft would have used beacons that would have helped the lifeboat locate them. So I've seen it in action, definitely. And I wouldn't, and I carry the equipment, so I wouldn't be shy of using it either if I needed to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to steer towards your experience charging your gadgets
Okay.
and what you've used historically to do so. And then also when you introduce Shine into the mix.
Mm.
If you could talk a little bit about that, that would be great.
Well, I mean, so to begin with, I guess way back, I guess we didn't have technology, the gadgets, so to speak, so phones, I didn't have phones even. So that wasn't a problem. But as things began to arrive inside my rucksack or my kit, then, I'd be using power banks. And of course, power banks were really weak in terms of the number of milliamp hours, you just, and the battery life of some of these, like my GoPro would die within minutes, really, sometimes. Really frustrating. You had to be really careful about what footage you took. Um, and so, yeah, so I was always very careful about my power consumption and eking it out and, I had very basic solar panel that kind of helped keep things topped up to a basic level, but never really solved the problem. And then it was in 2015 when I did my first trip, big trip, I had I think Power Monkey, I think it was, did a solar panel that kind of did the trick, but it wasn't great. And I found I did, I just kind of gave up using my GoPro on that trip because I just couldn't keep the batteries charged up. And then fast forward into 2018, 2019, more powerful battery banks, holding more power for longer meant that I was more confident about being able to charge my phone up. I was able to use my phone more often to stay in touch on the internet and stay in touch with people. Um, and then when I met people, they would help out by taking them off me and charging them up from their wall sockets at their homes or wherever it was. And then on my trip, the year-long trip, then I got myself a solar panel, and unfortunately, you guys have been very kind to offer me a shine, but it's saddened because of what was happening. You couldn't get it through the EU regulations, and unfortunately, it couldn't arrive. But so I used a solar panel. That was great, but that only worked when the sun shone. You see, so I mean, I couldn't use it through the night. And then all of a sudden, this wonderful package arrived with a turbine. And I tell you, my life has been transformed because now I can put the turbine up and it runs through the night and I can plug in. Generally, what I do is plug in a power bank and then that's charged up in the morning or certainly topped up to pretty full. And that serves me through the day. And so I carry two of those, whereas before I was carrying four.
Mm,
And now. It's funny how I don't become stressed anymore so I can use my kit knowing that I can keep it charged. So I'm happy to take whatever footage I want with my cameras, use my phone constantly. I don't have to switch it off and conserve the power on my phone. Yeah, it's just been incredible. And it's just amazing how something like your turbine has just transformed my experience, and made it a lot more comfortable from that point of view. If I was to say that if there was any discomfort for me in these outdoor experiences, it's worrying about the nitty gritty, like keeping my I call them my electricals charged up, um, and always having to borrow people's wall sockets to keep things powered up.
mm,
But now, and the great thing is, I feel it makes me feel independent as well. So it makes me feel like when I'm out there, I can camp on an island and know that in the morning, I've got enough power to see me through the day or for the next couple of days, even sometimes. So it's great. I mean, yeah, and I have that's the other thing I carry with me on longer trips. I take an iPad.
mhm.
That's essential if I'm doing a lot of social media stuff. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. One of from our very beginning, one of our missions was to create energy independence
yeah.
and clean energy independence. So just hearing you even speak those words about independence and what having energy independence means to you is a really good reminder of why we're, Kat and I and our team are on the path that we are on. So, yeah, it really hits home.
Mm.
Yeah, so I'm curious if you don't necessarily, or do you know where you might set up camp each night? Do you know what the location is going to look like? Because, and the reason I ask is because you obviously need wind to work a wind turbine.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what does setting up Shine look like for you? How do you get the access to wind power that you need?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, I'm not always sometimes on the shoreline. Generally, we do have good wind energy around the Scottish coastline. But invariably, I mean, there've been a couple of times maybe when because I've wanted a comfortable night, I haven't wanted to put my tent directly in the wind, which would be beneficial for the turbine. So it's meant sometimes that I've put my tent in a bit of a wind shadow location, and it has affected the output. But I kind of lived with that really. I do have a long, I think it's a 3 meter, so it's a long USB lead that leads into my tent from the turbine, so I can put it up a fair distance away from my tent, um, and yeah, so it's not in the shadow of the tent or not affected by the tent, and generally it will work okay. I suppose I don't choose a campsite with the turbine in mind, but um, I will often be quite happy when the wind is blowing and the turbine will work effectively. Yeah, so I think when I choose when I choose my campsite, if I'm kayaking, I'll try and choose it ahead of time so I kind of know where I'm going to land. But it's not always the case. When I'm walking, I kind of pitch when I feel the need to pitch. We're very lucky here in Scotland where we have the right to camp anywhere we want. So as long as we're not camping too close to anybody's property, or we're not being obnoxious by camping in a place that will upset people, as long as we're discreet and we're mindful of our presence, we have the right to camp anywhere we want. So that's not an issue. I don't have to worry about um, finding dedicated campsites. In England, it's a different story, and Wales the same. But yeah, so I kind of wing it a bit really. It's part of the adventure, I guess. And then when I've chosen the campsite, the turbine I'll place it in the best location that I can. And invariably, I mean, yeah, there are times when it stands still and I kind of will it to whir around, but it's not a lot I can do about that. But
Uh,
then sometimes through the night it'll just pick up and I can hear it sort of quietly humming in the background, which is lovely. Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Um, so you obviously have to pack quite a few pieces of technology, and I'm curious how you feel about the design of Shine and how that works with your gear setup. Like, what is it? Do you like, would you have changed anything about how Shine, because one of the things is that it's compact and portable. I'm curious of your experience of that.
It's yeah. One of the things I love about China, it's I think we would talk about it when we chatted last week. It's that kind of ergonomic feel to it. It's incredibly tactile. I love getting it out my rucksack or out my kayak because of its shape and the way it feels in my hands. So there's that for me, and its compact size. It feels weighty. It's just a really satisfying piece of kit to use. In terms of how it packs away, because of its shape, it's like I suppose a bullet shape, I suppose is the best description. It slots into little nooks and crannies inside my kayak or in my rucksack very, very easily. So, it's like if there's I have this habit of, in my rucksack, it will just slide down a corner and go neatly right down and sits really well. And I know that it's going to be protected and fit well in the rucksack. Equally, in my kayak, it has its place in one of the compartments fits in really well and things fit around it really well. And what I love about it, of course, is how it's, all you need is within the unit. So the pole, the rigging lines. I carry the lead separately. That goes into my electrical. I have an electrical gadgetry type pouch that I keep all that stuff in. Yeah, and I just love how the blades, it's one of my satisfying moments is getting the blades locked in place. I just love how they fold out. There's something really aesthetic about the whole design. Um, and yeah, and it is great. And when I've looked at, I think there's only one other that I'm aware of. It just seems a lot more bulky and would be more difficult to carry in a rucksack, it looks like, or more difficult to carry in a kayak. So yeah, I would urge you guys not to alter the design too much, with Shine 2 or further um, reiterations of the product, because that shape is really, really useful for a backcountry traveler like me,
Mhm.
to be honest, and the size of it as well, in terms of its practical practicability in terms of packing away and the weight. I mean, as a backpacker, I mean, some backpackers would say, "Well, that's too heavy," but for me, because of what it offers, it's a weight that I'm really happy to carry because it's one of those things that offers so much in terms of my comfort and um, making my journey a lot more sustainable, I guess.
Yeah, that's so nice to hear all those things. Um, when you were talking about Shine opening up and the ergonomics, that reminded me of our conversation last week where you touched on how, since using Shine, how you like it's altered or made you more aware of even some of your like the natural environment.
Definitely. I mean,
And
yeah, I mean, it's funny because as a kayaker, the wind has always been a nemesis, really. You look at the wind, you look at the sea conditions, and you think, oh no, it's blowing a hoolie today, and I'm not going to be able to paddle. But then, now if I've taken a day off, it means it's not totally wasted because it's a day that I've got the turbine running and it's getting everything charged up. And it's really satisfying to see the turbine at work on a day that I'm kind of taking off, that I'm lying around reading a book or catching up on my journal or whatever it is I might be doing because I can't paddle that day. So yeah, and again, like you said, I'm aware now of the wind direction, where to place the turbine. And I've got the not how do you say it, the anemometer, whatever it is that judges the wind speed. It just makes the whole experience a lot more fun, really. I really enjoy it. I mean, again, my partner laughs at me because I love my gadgets, and it's just like I'm always checking, oh, I wonder what the wind's blowing today, and I'm getting pretty good at looking at the blades and how they're spinning and judging, kind of not always 100%, but kind of guessing what the wind speed might be. Um, yes, and yes, I think it's enhanced my trips certainly.
so good. Kat, do you have anything else on Shine One that you want to ask about?
Yeah, maybe just more about how you learned more about where the best place to set up the turbine is and that evolution. Because I think that's because Shine is such a unique product on the market. As you said, there's only like one other maybe that's currently in market in terms of portable wind turbine for charging USB electronics. So one of the learning curves that users often need to undergo is a good place to set up the turbine in order to um, get optimal wind speeds.
Mm.
So I'm interested to hear your experience and how you found going about setting up Shine, um, and sort of tips and tricks, I guess, that might be helpful for other people.
So since I wild camp all the time, I put my turbine upwind of the tent, so the tent's not going to shadow the turbine at all. And because I have this long lead, I can put it a couple of meters away from the tent. I run the lead into the tent because that means I can be in my tent and monitor the product that the item that I'm charging. I kind of break your rules a bit. I don't take the turbine in at night time. I tend to leave it running through the night uh, because I've come to trust that that it will work. And I've looked at the forecast to know what the wind strength is going to be. If it's gusting, and it looks like it's gusting really powerfully, then I would take it in. And if it's raining really heavily, I'd take it in. I don't like to leave it out in the rain, certainly. If I'm going to be around the campsite or during the day, then I might move if I'm struggling with wind speed and around the tent, if I'm in a wind shadow location and the weather's okay, then I might take the turbine further away and put it on a knoll or a bit of high ground to catch the wind. Um, and that way I can, if I'm ashore because of the wind or because of whatever reason, then I monitor it from just by wandering up to it. Um, and so it doesn't have to be right by the tent. And I'm quite happy to move it around if need be. It's really easy to use. It looks like it's a dangerous piece of kit to use, but it's not. I mean, I've never ever had my fingers nipped by the blades at all. It's just very, very safe by just approaching it safely and turning it, so that just stop the blades and just take it off the stand, off the pole. Um, and then the other thing is to secure it securely so that those guy lines that you provided are served really well. The pegs go in really well, tightening them up. Always checking that that the pegs are secure. That's not going to they're not going to rip out. We're lucky here in the UK or in Scotland, we invariably have soft ground to peg out into. I'm not on rock, so I don't have to sandbag or use any other means to keep the guy lines or the unit secure. Um, yeah, and I suppose I guess the other thing is just to have confidence in the unit as well. So and I think that's again something that I've picked up through my years is that I know that these the things that I buy will have been tested thoroughly, and I trust that they're of good quality. So I'm confident about using them for what they're meant to be used for. And therefore I don't think I've never had a problem. Sometimes, the buzzers have gone and I've gone and checked, but they've never been buzzing permanently. So I've never really had to stop the unit for fear of it breaking. I don't know if I've answered your question really, but
No, I think that's great. I mean, the more that we learn about how to use our product, it just sort of reinforces what we think, what we were thinking when we, I guess,
yeah.
went about going the way we did. And I think it just reinforces what we're doing with Shine too.
And
Yeah.
what I'd like to say is that it's, my experience, it's a robust piece of kit. It's a robust piece of kit. It's a backcountry piece of kit, and I love it for that. That I can camp, like I say, I can camp on an island and charge my kit up. That's absolutely amazing. And in pretty powerful winds as well. Um, and of course, the harder it blows, the better it is, really. So yeah, yeah.
The wind's cubic relationship with power. We love it. As wind speeds double, power output goes up 8 times. So
Mm.
yeah, it's great to find a good windy spot because you'll really capitalize on the energy available. Um, so yeah, I think this is a really great time to start talking about what's next, which is Shine 2, which is basically an elevated version of Shine 1. Basically, we took all the things that people loved about Shine 1, which was the compact, portable size and weight of it being 3 pounds, the blades folding down, the mounting system still fitting inside the back of the turbine. However, through customer input, after we shipped over 2,000 units, we were able to speak to our customers about how do we improve this and make it better and solve an even larger problem for you. And the feedback we received was one was to integrate a new USB-C port into Shine 2. So Shine 1 has the USB-A port. It's crazy how things get outdated in time, but so we quickly have moved into the USB-C PD world. We've also introduced Shine being able to output. So it's a 50-watt rated wind turbine from the 40-watt that Shine 1 was. The USB-C can output up to 75 watts. We've got now 2 LED indicators for Shine 2, so battery status and power output will be indicated on that. And we're also we're working on a Bluetooth app, so you can get live metrics on Shine 2 as it's operating. We're also we're working on developing our 6-foot mount so that you can capitalize on more wind speeds at higher elevations. And we're developing a power station adapter because one of the largest requests from our customers is for them to be able to charge their power stations. So those are the things that are in the works and for Shine 2. And I'm curious to know from you, Nick, like how does that sound? Like, what are you looking forward to about Shine 2?
Well, two things really. The elevated pole, the pole, the lengthening the pole, that would be great. There have been times when that might have been useful in the past with Shine 1, the one that I've been using. And I think the app is great too. I mean, again, it just makes the experience probably a little bit more fun, being able to monitor the output. But I don't know what the app will tell, but it may make me feel even better about not worrying about whether it's breaking down or overheating, or if there's any problems that I need to be aware of, that I could attend to them straight away if I had the app. In terms of the power bank thing, I think that in terms of your marketability, that will certainly enhance your reach, because I know in the UK that those power units are becoming more popular. As people embrace wild camping a bit more, parking out wild and not relying on campsite electricity. So that'd be great. But that won't be something that I particularly need personally. I mean, we have gone into the camper van world, so we might find ourselves needing that. But certainly, from my point of view, the I suppose the increased power output would be useful. I don't know if it means. I mean, I'm not. I love my gadgets, but I'm not very well versed on on the intricacies of power and what have you, but the technology behind them. But yeah, if it means I can charge things up quicker or more effectively, then that would be great. But certainly, making it easier to catch the wind would be fantastic. But again, like I say, you've got the design right. I don't think you need to do much with that at all, to be honest. And you've got the concept totally bang on, in terms of it being a genuinely portable piece of kit for a adventure backcountry traveler, really. Yeah. So Shine 2, and I guess it's all heading in the right direction, isn't it? As technology and your understanding of the unit increases, then so will you know, the things you'll be able to do with it, I guess. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of those points about Shine 2 and your adventures to date. I now would love to open it up to a Q&A. So if anyone here is watching and has questions about Nick's experiences, his adventures, about Shine 1, Shine 2, where we're going, we'd love to answer anything now. So yeah, we'll just keep an eye out as some questions come through. All right. So one question we have is there protection to it if the wind is too strong and it spins too fast? Kat,
Yes.
what does that
Yes,
look
there is.
like?
So Shine has a built-in electronic brake. So basically when the RPMs are registered to go over a certain amount, then the internal brake engages and slows the turbine down to prevent it from overspeeding. Same can be said for overheating, or if it's too cold to function, to protect the batteries inside. The brake engages in those instances as well.
Very cool. On the topic of, oh, Nick, please.
I'm just going to say, and it works. That's just good.
Yeah, there you go. That's awesome. On the topic of the brake and just indicators for braking, how will the app be able to support some of these things?
Like Nick sort of hinted at, having an app that can sort of provide feedback in real time without having to deduce what the buzzer is engaging about. While you can still use the turbine without the app, which is really important based on customer feedback and just our understanding of, I would say IoT devices, but maybe smart devices. It's, I think having that as a feature in the app and being able to provide live real-time feedback as to why the brake might have engaged or the buzzer might have gone is really important. So it is a feature in the app.
Great. And how, for the 6-foot mount, what's the design of that look like, and how will that work?
It's gonna be a lot like the original 3-foot mount that comes with every Shine turbine. It's just gonna be a longer version, more sturdy, a lot sturdier. It's gonna have a built-in level bubble, and it's gonna have sort of a different tensioner setup where it's gonna be a lot sturdier because you're dealing with loads and heights that are larger than or bigger than Shine with its standard 3-foot mount. So the tensioner and the pegs are sturdier to support that as well.
That's great. Nick, do you have any questions about like the future development of the turbine, or things that you would want to see integrated into a future model?
No,
You're content.
I'm content at the moment. Yeah, thanks.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How does the power station adapter work, and what connections are there?
Yeah. So the 3 primary connectors that we have for the power station adapter, one is obviously the USB-C that connects to Shine 2. Then there's like a little box that has 2 connectors on the other side. One is a XT60 connector, and the other is what's it called?
8-millimeter barrel.
Thank you. DC connector.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these are designed specifically to work with power station solar inputs. And what the little box does is it acts as the go-between communicator between the USB-C PD power delivery protocol and the solar enumerator side of things, which the power station wants to understand and sort of communicate with. So it acts sort of like as a translator between the PD and then the solar speak, let's just say. So it works that way. So that's why it's a custom product, because there's nothing in the market that currently translates wind energy and through a USB-C port to a solar input on a power station.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if folks have power stations that do accept USB-C input, then you can simply use a USB-C male to USB-C male cable to charge your power station via Shine. However, if your power station accepts only XT60 or a DC input, then that is when you would need the power station adapter that we've developed, so that it can actually charge the power station. Okay, so another question from the audience. Are there the internal batteries inside Shine 2 serviceable by the customer?
Not by the customer. We are working to develop a service in-house where we can service the batteries inside Shine 2, but no, these cannot be serviced by the user.
Okay, cool. I might just wait a second to see any more. Oh, how can people stay connected with Nick as he enters onto his next expedition? Nick, let us know what's the best way to do that.
Well, thanks very much. That's great. Well, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook as Life Afloat. I'm on Threads. I'm not very good at Instagram. I'm getting better at Instagram, and I'm on Blue Sky. But also, I have a website, lifeafloat.co.uk, and my trip is up there, and there's a page dedicated to that. And then I also have a GPS tracker. So when I set off, just about every hour, you will find out where I am in real time, and you'll be able to follow my progress as it unfolds. So, and I'm very open to emails or messages, private messages on through the social media, if you want to have a chat, and I'm really happy to, yeah, to chat. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, so we're gonna wrap up here now. Again, I really want to say thank you to Nick for sharing your time and your experiences and lessons learned with us today. It's always it feels like a gift talking to one of our customers who have been using our product. We learned so much from you, and we wouldn't be here today without the support of folks like yourself. And just knowing how Shine has changed your experience in the outdoors and like what it has provided you or how it's allowed you to explore further and stay connected longer is like I said before, an incredible reminder to Kat and I and our team why we do what we do. We're extremely excited that we are doing the UK launch right now, and we would love for all of our network to follow your journey. So yeah, thank you again for your time, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, we will be following along, and we can't wait to see all the places that you see.
Yep, yep. Thank you. And it's been a real privilege. So thanks very much. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
No, really great.
All
Thanks
right,
again.
well, thank you to everyone who joined us today. We also wouldn't be here without your support as well. So if you have any questions, you can continue commenting in the live stream event, and we will reply at a later time. And yeah, we'll be sure to do more of these in the future. So thank